Okay, with the pinch sculpture, one of the most common things people get stuck in is instead of doing sculptural three-dimensional carving, they will do line work, which is like you see right here, where they're just carving in a line, doing a design, drawing essentially onto a three-dimensional surface. That's an alright place to start, but once you have your line, you have to then go in deep into the clay's interior and then make it into three-dimensional forms. To do this, I typically like to use this round edge loop tool. You see here, it has this kind of a point to it so I can dig into the clay. This is also a good tool to use. This spear tool has a spear on the other end, but this curved tool right here can be good too for coming along the edges like that and rounding it out. But I'll start off with the ring tool, rounded edge ring tool. And when you come into the line, you have to get used to coming back and forth like this with your ring tool. So once I've dug in my line like this, I put the point into the line, go as deep as I can, then go ahead and start rounding it out. Don't make anything smaller in your project, meaning part of the rubric is you can't make it narrower. It has to take up the same amount of space. This should never come in. I shouldn't take off the top point, the top parts here. I shouldn't take off the top parts here, here, here. Some of this is going to have to maintain this distance away from the interior. So I think about those areas. This right here is about the middle of this form. So I turn this way, as you see, and I start rounding out from the trench. Because in the rubric it says no grooves, no lines. That's what it is. Okay, you can start with them. You keep going deeper. If you have the thickness, keep going deeper into there. And then you got to round it out though. You're coming around them out. Like so. If I have the deep clay, if it has that thickness, I'll continue to try to use the depth to round it even more. This is pretty thick right here, so I definitely could go in to here a lot more and use that thickness to make this more dramatic. I'm going to just start digging it a little bit by pushing this in here and twisting it like this. I can dig because there is tons of thick clay, and eventually you have to get that thick clay out of there. I'm going to dig it. Then start to round. Round back this way. Round this way. Okay. I'd like to put it in this video somewhere where it's a before and after of what actually all the little parts that I work on, just to see the difference. If I ever do that, I would do it right around now for this part right here. I mean, you want to make everything more dramatic. This right here could be a lot more dramatic as well if this kind of comes over and then goes in more right here. So I could dig, put my ring tool in, twist, twist. Maybe I'll try this tool a little bit. You got to make sure with these tools, if you're putting too much pressure on them, especially I don't want these ones broken, these are very expensive, and you feel the tension on the vehicle, then you got the wrong tool. Don't break it. Dig some of that clay out. So now this like comes back into there. So the whole idea is you get your forms moving out and back in, out and back in. You start showing that movement. Come in here more. There's a lot of grooves on this project. I mean, just right here, you see there's tons of, they started with this lines right here, but they're not rounded. This is just a groove. Oh, this is a common thing people get caught into. I mean, this is wider than most. It's not a line like the last one I started with, but it's still a groove. You have to come in and round this out until this is the high point over here. Round it out to that. Okay, so you take this tool, or even a hard edge tool might work for this. This clay's a bit hard, so a hard edge tool might help. As you see, this starts to look a lot more round and like a protruding out than it did before. It just looked like this was one form before with a big line cut out of the middle of it. Once you start rounding it, they take on their own forms. All right, so if I go down here, there are the forms coming in a little bit, so why don't I can play around with the depth too. So this just doesn't have to be going the same, you know, same measure as the same area all the way down. Maybe I'll just play around and I'll dig into here so this comes in and then back up. Maybe this comes in a little bit right here more. Like I've said many times with demoing this project, is you look for things you already see and then you can just exaggerate them and make them much more of what they're already doing. Bringing the little bumps way farther into the interior of the clay to accentuate the parts that are popping out. Maybe I'll just do that out there a little bit. Okay, so these are, now I gotta remember to form this too, to make this come, because I already rounded this part out. I have to make sure I round this one out too. Pretty soon, I would definitely enter, if I'm able to do so, another before and after picture here, or else you go back to the beginning of this video, just scroll back, rewind, and look at what this looks like before this trench that was here before I started bringing it out and rounding it like this. So just make sure to go into all your forms like that. At the end, I always come in here a little bit deeper, just to make that more exaggerated, more contrasting with the rest of it. There's tons of areas around the project like that. This is just a groove, again, just a groove. You have to round it more like this. So it's all over where you would be doing that kind of thing. So just go ahead and just start rounding these out like that. Round them out. Round this out. Once you start rounding your forms, I'm probably going to take this line up into here. I don't see why you wouldn't maybe come up, accentuate this part right here a little bit. Take that there. Take that there. Come under, so now this is going to be bringing this part out too. Once I start taking this form, it's going to roll underneath this one. All right. But as where I started over here, just keep rounding this out right at this point. Keep the high parts here so this doesn't get any narrower. Just come around it, make this go deeper so it's more dramatic on that part. Around here. It's a little harder when you get them so tight together like this. You have to do the rounding really quick. This would definitely be a spot where I would do a before and after right here. All right, coming into that. So I hope that makes things a little bit easier. Of course, just ask me and I can come over and discuss it with your own project and show you in person, which should be, I assume, more enlightening. All right.